Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast. We bring you stories every week. You bring us fresh creme brulee. I'm waiting. I'm, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we are here to tell stories and eat creme brulee, but we're all out of creme brulee.
Rats.
Yeah. So last week, at the end of last week's episode, we drew some story elements for this week. I had them all listed out here, really nice in a nice order, and then I lost them. There they are. So last week, we had Pantheon beginning scene in history. And at the end of last week, we redrew, and I got reoccurring character, and Reed got wise old woman, and Seth got hero. Reed, do you want to give us a little recap of our story last week?
Okay.
And then we'll jump right into this week.
The name of the story is Music Makes Magic. I'm sorry about that.
I think that was last time.
That is not even...
No, it's Music of the Spheres. I'm sorry. They were right next to each other. I haven't got my glasses on. So the beginning scene was it was at the picture the corporate boardroom of the To Infinity and Beyond Corporation. And they're assessing what to do with the data that they've received over the past 2 weeks. This was 2 weeks after 6 nuclear explosions vaporized the polar ice of Mars in a first kind of step of terraforming effort, which appears to be wildly successful beyond all expectations. So there's that, and Seth came in with the kind of the history of this. We've got a world that the modern nation state and national sovereignty is kind of broken down a little bit. People are focusing on consolidation. There was a kind of a charismatic leader actually in Portugal that had a lot of corporate contacts, and a lot of these international corporations had their, connections with governments around, especially in the developed nations, so it's kind of taking maybe the European Union kind of onto the next level, so to speak. And a kind of a glitch has come in that this kind of charismatic leader that kind of set this up and got this kind of one world thing going died after about 10 years. And so there's been kind of a succession crisis, a little balkanization, kind of a la Alexander the Great when he passed on. His empire was broken up into among the 4 great generals, basically. But so that's kind of where we are with the history. Seth, do you want to flesh that out a little bit? Did I get close?
That seems really good.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Pretty good.
And then the Pantheon I thought was really interesting. A kind of a group of beings, kind of from the beginning of the universe, and they're kind of, you got to think of them as sort of the orchestra of the universe, kind of at the switchboard and the traffic control of,
right, yeah.
kind of a grid and each god is responsible for a planet, so to speak. And the being that is in charge of Mars has been kind of, he's kind of wanted to consolidate power and kind of rise in his, he's not satisfied with his duties as it is. Some of them are kind of defeated in a way. They've kind of been inactive as modern people began to really stop calling on the names of the gods.
Well, they're still active, but the thing is they're just kind of providing their function.
Yeah.
They're no longer interacting with people.
Right.
But they're just kind of holding up, making sure that science and reality is true.
And I remember in last week's story, I kind of speculated that perhaps there were a couple of things. There was one real theoretical thing that had to do with the actual composition of the fusion devices that the scientists were hoping would get a higher percentage of O3. You have this massive vaporization of the ice caps, so you get water vapor, greenhouse effect, rising temperatures on the surface of Mars and with high oxygen content, but they wanted to spike the O3, the ozone, and an ozone layer appears to be forming, which is that's the chances of actual life being able to flourish on Mars would have to depend on some protection from the naked radiation from the sun. So the board, that was how the story started about, is that should we step off now, or is there something else that we need to?
I think that's good.
Okay.
Seth, can you think of anything else that he didn't include?
No, I think that kind of gives a pretty good sum up of last week.
Yeah, so I have reoccurring character, Reed has wise old woman, and Seth has hero. Does anyone feel specifically like stepping up, or should I talk about my reoccurring character?
That's fine with me.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So if you pause this episode, first, before you pause, if you write an episode down, I want you to go. You probably can't get it on a podcast app anymore because it's too old. Probably have to go to the Libsyn, who we host the websites under, to their website, because this is a reoccurring character all the way back from episode number 2, the egg-shaped nanites and the gardener. Do you guys remember that episode?
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Yep. It was sort of a post-apocalyptic world. There was a sort of a device that contained the consciousness of 3 people and had nanites and could create their bodies. And they were protecting a gate to another world. There was a gardener who had some kind of power over the gate or over life or something itself. I didn't actually listen to the episode, but this is the birthplace of that quartet. Part of the efforts in order to send people to Mars and other planets, part of the issue being is the nutritional requirements, right, for a human being.
Yep.
And so they didn't ask for it, but one of the things that they sort of kept a special eye out for was, war heroes, scientists, people who got into terrible accidents, right? And would kind of offer them an opportunity, so you're a quadriplegic now, but here's an opportunity to get everything back. However, you basically just have to sign up to go to Mars or off-world. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take you and we're going to harvest your brain, and then we're going to fill your brain full of diodes and do all our processes to copy your consciousness, and then put you in charge of a ship, put you in charge of whatever, right? And so it's 3 people, but before they were 3 people, before they were the quartet in episode number 2, they were 3 different soldiers, they had 3 different personalities. They're 3 people. This is just about because it was 2 men and a woman. It's just about one of the men. The kind of, if I remember the episode correctly, there was one that was kind of like skinnier and had like a longer sword, and one that was kind of really broad shouldered and had like a huge sword. It's about the bigger one. He was a veteran of the sort of the asteroid belt rebellions, and he was kind of the first ever to get this done. This is years before the egg-shaped nanites and the gardener. This is when he first sort of becomes this thing. And we're about 2,000-3,000 years away from like functioning nanites. So what it is now is he controls a ship, and he controls he can inhabit or go into a couple of human-shaped droid, clearly robots. But he is a military man. He is all about the mission. He is willing to sacrifice everything in order to accomplish what he's told to do. And he's kind of on the forefront. Right now he's the one it's his ship that the nukes were loaded into.
Okay.
Right? He's the one sort of circling Mars and like being the primary switchboard to send back the information up. But he doesn't have a body. He's not a human being anymore. He's just a consciousness in the ship. That's the reoccurring character.
Hey, cool. I will step in with the hero because I think it'll build on a little bit of
Nice.
what you just explained and kind of give a reason. I don't know. I think it'll work out pretty good.
Great.
So our hero is a journalist. I had a name in my mind earlier.
Was it Julian?
I don't know, Carl or Julian Reed. Pick one.
I'm going with Carl. Is there a better reason to have Julian?
I can't think of one.
Okay.
So Carl is his name. And the story that has come upon his desk and that is kind of making him kind of under suspicion, although it depends if someone knows that he has this story or not. And that is, of course, he's following kind of, the cutting edge of, that kind of world leader guy dying, the different politics of the separatists,
right.
All this other stuff. Right. And one of the things that keeps coming up is now that, Mars is being terraformed, right, as it sways down into this kind of, to keep consolidation into this kind of golden thing, which seems to be what's going to happen, which has a lot of people that kind of want to revert back to nationalism, worried about, this one world government, with biblical implications to it. They don't like this. One of the things being proposed is to, not in like you're being banished here, but that if this is something you don't want, then you can be sent to colonize Mars, right? Because this is where it's going.
Right.
And, if you don't want to be a part of it, then you can basically see the new world, right? And that's kind of gaining traction as people are looking at this and this is developing. But what the story is that something that's been covered up since long, long ago, but particularly now that they've been making some breakthrough and that, let's say, getting, colonizing another planet or getting into space more readily is becoming a thing. Something that they've been hiding is you can't go to space. Right. You can, right. They can send, spaceships up there. But any of the life that is sent from Earth into outer space has like a 99% chance of like not coming back mentally. They'll basically come back as a vegetable.
Okay.
And so to kind of hide that, not that they've faked the entire space front, right? They have stuff out there, satellites, telescopes, they've been doing this stuff on Mars, which I think it brings in with what you were talking about is if I'm getting what's right here, they're taking the paraplegics and then like copying their consciousness and they're controlling things in space, right?
Yeah.
But like they're in a vat, in NASA's basement, basically.
Or they're conscious. That's how it was originally, but their consciousness now is just completely digital. So there is no biological element going up into space.
Right. So those are the people, the few people that, don't, go mad or through like the digitization of their consciousness to, and they're sitting in there and they'll, let's say, believe they're in space, right? Their body gets animated into a, some kind of a humanoid droid that can walk around on the planet's surface. They're visually functioning through it, right? But en masse, people wouldn't be able to just like get in a spaceship and go, right? There's something in like leaving our atmosphere, and whether it's tied to like this is where we are, right? And leaving kind of our sphere of influence, whether it has to do with, the gods, right? And their different places.
Right. Or
But,
just
now
a lot.
the chances is maybe if there was like you brought up the nano and the egg thing, right? Perhaps if there was a way to make a gate that one could step through here and step out on Mars.
Right.
But that is the thing that has come into Carl's, lap is that this push or idea that en masse people are going to be able to take to the stars is kind of being glossed over. And it could be nefarious, or it could just be we're making all these leaps and bounds and we don't want to like lose the public momentum.
Right.
But that is what they have.
So Carl's kind of on this story and trying to bring things to light and stuff. Is that it?
Correct. And the thing that has just come across his desk or has like someone anonymously sent this or has been communicating with them. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, they've gone dark, but they've left them with this, all this kind of documents to bring to light that basically like people can't go to space. We can send ships up there. We can send, droids. We can send, some of these people that, people recognize as, these kind of space frontiersmen kind of things. They're not actually up there. They're basically remoting, through technology to be there. And so in mass, like actual people have not like left our atmosphere.
So the way that you're saying this, I just want to understand. Are you saying that space doesn't exist?
No, I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
Okay.
Yeah, I said that right off the bat. They're sending stuff up there, but human life can't leave the atmosphere and come back without basically turning into a vegetable and going mad and
right. So this is why they would need to use the paraplegics, why they would need to sort of accelerate this human digitization process, because they're trying to preserve human consciousness out past. Because you can remote in, right? But it takes 15 minutes for a laser to go from Earth to Mars, right? That means 30 minutes before you know if the last input that you told it to do is effective. So they have to be trying to decrease the amount of lag, and therefore we're going to digitize these people and send them up that way.
Right. On an individual basis, it can be done. But what's happening like otherwise is what's being cast around is, okay, you don't like this one world thing. Well, now we're terraforming Mars, hop on the spaceship and we'll send you out there.
Which is a lie.
Correct. So basically it's like, oh, that's a great way to get rid of the dissidents. They don't know that, there's a chance that like 99.999% of them will go mad as soon as they leave the atmosphere.
Is that as soon as, or like, I mean, there've been, have there been anybody that's gone up like on short term, like into orbit or gone to a space station? You know what I'm saying? So, but it's just do these symptoms show up immediately upon coming back or what?
They show up when you leave the atmosphere, like once you get into what is considered space.
So that could
on the off chance that there's probably a couple people in all the history that have come back fine, but they don't really know why that is.
Right.
Okay.
Cool. And so this Carl, this hero, has just gotten all this information, and he's thinking about, obviously, it's a moral quandary.
Breaking the story or what?
Breaking the story and probably breaking the longest held peace that Earth has ever experienced, or keep the peace, but deceive and turn a blind eye to, it's like saving are you going to save hundreds of thousands of people from going off world, or or millions of people from going off world, or are you going to save trillions of people, Because if you tell people that you're going to die if you try to go off world, it's going to lead to the breaking of the peace and therefore war. But if you let a couple million people, quote unquote, go off world and die, then this great peace gets preserved.
So you have like the guys that put together the great, the To Infinity and Beyond Corporation, they're kind of planning on sending people up, right? And this is kind of putting the kibosh on their plans, or we don't know if they know it yet or what, Yeah,
that's the question. Is the To Infinity and Beyond company, are they people users?
Maybe I should bring in the wise old woman and then we can kind of sort it out. Is that all right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So Henrietta Hart is the wise old woman. People know her as Dr. Hart. She's an MD, board certified internal medicine, cardiology. She's got pharmacology. She's got PhDs in microbiology and botany. and genetics, and she's a specialist. She's got a master's in nutritional science. She has been one of the pioneers of light therapy technology. This idea of reflecting back the natural infrared light that your body gives off and activating copper peptides, and this regenerates stem cells, so your body starts to repair itself.
Right.
And she's very old. She's in her over 100, but she looks like 70s. But she has been around, and she has been real interested. She has done a lot of research on the effects of different light refractions and plant growth. And she was specifically fascinated by the idea of what would it take to allow mankind to flourish off-world, so to speak.
Right.
She being not conscious of this other, there's this other data, and she doesn't, her whole career has been around, the idea that moving off this little, the pale blue dot or whatever it's called, is possible, right? And anyway, she's known as Dr. Hart, kind of a play on her name, Hart, and the fact that she kind of came to fame with therapies that really drastically reduced heart disease and prolonged life for people. And her background, she has got a consulting role on the Mayflower Project with To Infinity and Beyond Corporation, and the idea of building a great spacecraft up in space so they don't have to launch a whole lot of hardware and get it, off Earth, but they can take it up in pieces and put it together. And the idea is launching this big mission. However, this will all be in jeopardy as Carl either breaks the story or however this plays out. I just as a background, her lineage is deep Welsh, Old Britain, Celtic, and that may play a role. But she is a player. She's in on the deal, and it'll be interesting to see. Her reaction would be, obviously, when this story breaks, well, let's break down the science of it. Why is this happening? And with the kind of, from her position is, why should people's hearts give out and get old and die?
Right.
And so she's been on the edge of, so I see kind of a clash of kind of two forces here. Might be interesting.
What are the two forces?
Well, we can't go into space because this bad stuff happens. Or, why does that bad stuff happen, and what can we do to prevent it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess my thought would be, because I kind of thought of this too because I remember being a kid, and I'm pretty sure Reed remembers this farther back than you or I, Levi. But, right, so in the 60s, we, land on the moon, and then it's like we've never really gone back, right?
Yeah, right.
And thinking at least me as a kid thinking oh yeah, we've been to the moon, they've sent all these things out to Mars and, all this stuff. And it seems like, okay, we've got this plan that in, 15 years we'll think about, having a mission. It's all kind of, how would you put it? A lot going into it, but nothing happening.
Yeah.
I know. It seems like they'd be able to do these things, but then they're continually not doing it. And so kind of thinking well, what if there was a thing where let's say with the moon landing, they go up there and only one of them really came back sane. And then that's why people think it's faked, is because they filled in from their studio some of the stuff to make it seem like it was fine, and then made them kind of hush up about it. And then when they've sent people up either in satellites or other things, most of them come back gone. And so just kind of that thing where you and I'd never know about it, but they've probably got teams and teams of scientists. It'd be if you look through NASA's books and they're why do we have, someone, a whole team of people looking into, I don't know, the neurology of, some psychology thing that doesn't really seem like it's related to going to space. Does that make sense?
I think so.
right? But then whatever they're working on or problem they're trying to solve, even let's say the scientists or the people studying these things, they'd be like, yeah, I'm studying like the zero gravity effect on bananas and oranges. I don't know why, but I'm being paid like $1 million a year, to, I don't know, rub banana cream on chimpanzees and put them in a weightless environment and see what happens to them. But I don't know why. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
So I think
it's just classic government obfuscation of information. They don't want people to know things, so they cheapen it or reduce the emphasis, and then they can just kind of move around the numbers enough that people keep funding them, but no one needs to know why we've never been back.
Yeah. I was just thinking when Seth brought this up, 1968, I'm 16. And I remember that summer going to the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey. And it's based on the premise that we've got like by now, this was happening in the 60s where we had all this activity. And then, by 2001, surely there's a Pan Am passenger flight to the moon, right? I mean, it's like, this is a thing people do. It's like kind of on the same par as, people getting on the Concorde and flying across the Atlantic in a couple of hours. But, it's like, not everybody can spring for the ticket, but it's really cool, right? And then they have they go up there, and then they have the monolith up there on the moon, and then they go on the big journey up to the moon, the moon of Saturn, is it, or whatever? Anyway, it's the idea that we're doing legitimate exploration of our solar system by 2001. Which seemed entirely reasonable in 1968, right? And then, obviously that didn't happen.
What did you think about when that didn't happen?
Well, it didn't happen it's 2001 and it didn't happen. It didn't happen incrementally over time. Nothing happened today, but that's not a big deal. Well, nothing happened this year, but that's not a big deal. Well, nothing happened this decade, and what are they doing at NASA? And then the space shuttle Challenger blows up, and you know what I'm saying? It's and people are busy with their lives, and as long as NASA keeps its funding, they're not making noise about it. But a few people are saying, hey, wait a minute, what are we buying here with this huge expenditure of public funds? And, 10 years go by, 20 years go by, 30 years go by. What's going on here,
Gosh, this really sucks. I was hoping we weren't going to make a podcast about government spending and things like that, but I guess that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's a joke?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Next week, we're going to talk about 501c3, how to hide assets from government little grubby hands.
Yeah.
How to keep NASA's grubby hands off of your hard-earned money.
Absolutely. You guys ready for me to draw the story elements for next week? You guys ready to be done for today? Anyone got any very cool ideas?
Well, I guess, I kind of want to know where Carl's going to go. Was he going to break the story? What is going to happen here? I think we maybe should give us a jumping off point.
Yeah. What do you think you should do, Reed?
I think you should break the story.
Yeah, that's because you're a romantic. That's because you're a romantic, and you think that the hero should always do that sort of thing.
Yeah, and they would let him,
Yeah, as if he wouldn't walk out of his house after receiving it and have his brains blown out immediately.
Which, that's where some of the story could go. Either now he's kind of running for his life, or kind of reporting in on now. I don't know. Whatever, the aftermath of, or, he releases it because this is what happens more often than not. Something like that could come out, but then, something bigger comes out, but takes kind of all the media presence.
Right.
Well, yeah, the great misdirect, wag the dog, right? You want to get people's attention off the thing that you don't want them talking about and get their focus on something aside light thing, and get their mind off it, the collective mind off nothing behind the curtain.
Right. The question is why is this such a big deal? Is because it's harkening back to it harkens back to the Holocaust when it was like, just get on the train. You guys are going to be moving. We're going to be moving you all. Get on the train, right? It's not because it's a problem that they're digitizing people, because a bunch of the people that they're digitizing and who are doing this work are all volunteers. You know, it's the fact that they are saying you can just get off world. It's so easy. But in fact, it's not as easy as they say, right? Am I reading this correct?
Kind of. I mean, yeah, because even if, let's say, they weren't told that they were being digitized, that could raise up, for the people that would be going. And if it actually was going and then finding out that they were being stripped down and digitized, the group of people that would be doing that would probably have an issue with that as well.
Yeah. No, death before hard drive. That's my personal opinion.
And death before the hard drive. Yeah.
Yeah. So what he is, I think what the journalist is trying his best to do, what he realizes he needs to do is he doesn't necessarily need to break this to the world, right? What he needs to do is he needs to break this to bring this to a certain number of world leaders and or military, private military or whatever, and have them understand what's going on, right?
Yeah, that's what I would.
Because if he just pumps it out, he'll just get Julian Assanged, right?
Sure.
The biggest superpower in the world will just say, you're arrested and you're under arrest. And he'll spend, years in a Russian embassy because they're the only ones who wouldn't extradite him to the US to probably be assassinated. Anyways. So I think that's kind of his goal now is not to break the story, as it were. The first part of first part of the book, or the first part of the stuff involving him, is all this information being left to him, and then kind of figuring out who it is, because it's this whole weird unification thing started in Portugal, but it didn't hit the whole world. It hit 90% of the world,
Right.
And even now we are a couple months or a couple year or so from the death of this great leader. Already the balkanization has started. The whole world is in kind of this turmoil because it needs that leader to kind of continue the work, but already things are kind of splitting. And so he's having to decide who is he going to go to in order to get the support that's needed so that they can let everyone know and actually do something about it after they let them know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Wait, It Gets Better. If you liked it, let us know. Send us an email at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com or message us on Twitter at @GetsBetterCast. We are happy to take your suggestions, listen to your feedback. We are always interested to know what our fans think about our stories. Next week, join us for the conclusion of this episode. Levi has random insert, Reed has happy ending, and Seth has unique vehicle. Thanks, everybody. Bye.